Hello once again, Star Wars Unboxing fans. Welcome to a very special indie episode of Darth Tuba Star Wars Unboxing Show, or Indie Unboxing Show, I should say. Today I'm here because at the time of this recording, or I should say at the time of the release of this recording, we are in the midst of Indiana Jones fever. That's right, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is coming to theaters would be in the time of this recording just a few days, and again, at the time of this release, it's going to be the opening weekend. I am extremely excited for this film. I have absolutely no opinion either way based on what anybody else has said. I've heard positive reviews. I've heard negative reviews. Guess what? I've been around long enough to hear that about every film that I've ever liked. So it has absolutely no bearing on me. And I know that this is the last Indiana Jones film with Harrison Ford, regardless of whether or not they choose to continue making more of the franchise with somebody else or with another character. It doesn't matter. We are done with Harrison Ford as Indy, so I am choosing this time to be in a celebratory mode. Anybody who's watched my channel knows that I am the firm belief that Star Wars and Indiana Jones are basically very close cousins. So while I was not an excessive Indiana Jones collector, not like Star Wars, part of the reason for that was that there wasn't much Indiana Jones product out there. There wasn't as much of Indiana Jones material, and what they did make didn't really sell as well. And I heard the Junkman, if you ever watched Junkman, he made a great statement. He said people liked to play with Star Wars, but they like to be Indiana Jones. They like to play Indiana Jones. They like to put on a hat and a leather jacket and a whip and go out and be Indiana Jones. It was more of role play and a little bit less with figures. Having said that, over the past now 40 years, Kenner and Hasbro have come up with a lot of different Star Wars I'm so used to Star Wars. Have come up with a lot of indie merchandise, and I wanted to share some of that with you here. Okay, so we're going to kind of do full circle. Okay, we're going to start with the vintage collection. Now, these are not vintage collection. These are those retro figures that have come out. But if you've watched my channel more recently, you will know that there have been releases, and I've actually did these as unboxings. And you can see that we have Indy, we have Belloc, okay? These were two of about a half a dozen figures that they released in the vintage days in the 80s. In addition to that, they released Well of the Souls playset, a Cairo kind of town playset. I believe there was a Jeep and maybe a motorcycle and a horse. Okay, so there wasn't a huge amount. You know, when you consider what Episode 4 A New Hope Star Wars, what vehicles and creatures that they released for one movie, let alone three, there was not a huge amount, comparatively speaking. But I will say that the Indy figures were a little bit more advanced than the Star Wars figures. Instead of just being 5 POA, points of articulation, they actually had a little bit more. The knees bent. There was a play action feature with the quick draw. I call it a quick draw McGraw gun thing. And you can see if you look closely at Indy, he's kind of got his right arm is kind of bent, like he's going to be holding a pistol, and he comes with a gun. So yeah, thank you Hasbro and Lucasfilm for not removing the gun the way Spielberg removed the guns from E.T., from the FBI agents. Not quite sure why that was such a thing. They never fired the guns. Sorry, I digress. I'm not quite sure why that was a thing, but they digitally removed them in the movies, so whatever. And of course, Belloc in his ceremonial garb. I can't remember if this was released like this or if this was a mail away. I think it might have been a mail away in the original days. So anyway, so that's these are examples of what originally came out. I did have them. I played with them frequently as a child. In fact, I probably played with them a little bit more. They kind of were my tub toys. I would actually play with them when I was taking my bath. I mean, I was very young, by the way. I was in not even 7 or 8 or 9, something like that. And and I took baths, and I would play with them. And of course, that gets them. The paint starts to chip off, and the limbs start to become very loose. So eventually, they just got tossed. Sorry to say. Not my Star Wars figures. They lasted, but the other thing that they came out with that I wanted to share with you was this little guy, or not so little guy. This is the Indiana Jones action figure, 12-inch figure. Now, this is not a mint figure or a mint box. I just happen to still have the box. well, part of the box. This part is ripped. So it's complete, I think. Or yeah, has his gun, has his jacket, has his whip, kind of hold up in the back there. This is essentially just a Han Solo action figure, head at least, and they have this great, figure of it. I mean, it's got pretty good articulation. Now, the only problem with this, there's something about indie hats. Like, look at the one I'm wearing. This is not a great indie hat. It's like an indie hat color, right? But whoops, sorry there, Harrison. But it's basically just like a fedora, right? But it says Indiana Jones on the hat. Like, it's an official Indiana Jones hat, but it doesn't really look like an Indiana Jones hat. In fact, if I find one that does kind of match the hat more, I might pick that up. But anyway, Indy's hat, this thing is, he can't handle it. He just keeps falling over. I mean, just look at this thing. It's just this like weird, I know what they were going for, and it's nice because it's nice. Look at that. It's way too big. It looks like the Scarecrow from The Wizard of Oz. Both of us, look at this. That might be my thumbnail. There we go. Just not the best. You know what I mean? Not the best of hats. But I applaud them for trying. And again, the 12-inch figures were not nearly as popular as the 3 3/4 inch. So they didn't do much more with that. So then Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom did have a small figure line, okay? They included a handful of figures. You can see pictures of them online. I'm just going to kind of graze over them. Last Crusade, nothing. They just weren't having luck with toys. They realized that, so by Last Crusade, there really was very little. The only company that started getting into Disney to a little bit of indie merchandise was Disney, because Disney had, around '89, they had opened the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular in Walt Disney World. It is still running to this day. It is an amazing show. It's a fantastic stunt show. Not only is it great because it's one of the few things left in Disney Hollywood Studios that tells you about making movies. They kind of go through the story of Raiders of the Lost Ark, but they do it from the point of view of the stuntman and the stunt coordinators and things like that. And they've changed it over the years slightly. They made a pretty rapid, big change post-COVID, but they might bring it back to the other way. If they do, they do. They don't, they don't. It's fine. They took away an audience participation thing, but it's really fantastic. So if you ever get down to Hollywood Studios, it's about an hour of your time. You have to go in and get in line, get in there, and that's 15, 20 minutes, and then the show is about 40 minutes. So, but it's worth it. It's really great. They have the music, they have great sound effects, and all the characters are out there, and it's just a lot of fun. So Disney, of course, every attraction in Disney World ends in a gift shop. So Disney did have a series of things. In fact, I think I might have picked up the shirt in Disney and the hat in Walt Disney World. And they also had, pictures and books, and whenever there were comics available, they would sell them. But they also had figures, and they had some Disney, indie figures. But of course, for a while there, they were getting Mickey Mouse in the act. So here's a Mickey dressed as Indy figure I love the little Mickey idol, that he has too. So I have to say I miss this about Disney. They did a lot of this back in the early 2000s. They did a lot of Mickey as Star Wars characters, Mickey as Indy characters. I think they had the Muppets as Star Wars characters, the Muppets as Indy characters. It was a really cool thing. But, Disney was the place to go for a while when Indy wasn't doing anything new. And then came Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Now, say what you will about the movie. Some love it, some hate it. More people don't like it than like it. I get that. I understand it. I enjoyed seeing Indy in the 50s. I enjoyed where the story went. I didn't even mind the aliens, plot line. I think, I feel like some people, when people say, well, what was it? The supernatural stuff with Nazis, that's believable. And the thuggy cult, that's believable. But aliens, no. I'm like, if you're going to suspend your belief for one, you kind of have to suspend your belief for all. So, there was it. Now, I wasn't a big fan of Shia LaBeouf's character, mainly because I'm not a big fan of Shia LaBeouf. I just think the guy is kind of weird. But anyway, that's just me. So I mean, I didn't mind his character. I mean, I understood, you know, maybe where they were trying to go with it, and I'm great. I was happy they brought Marion back, the character of Marion Ravenwood back, and Karen Allen did an amazing job, and she doesn't look a day older than she did the last time we saw her, so that's amazing. And it was just a cool thing, and there was enough to like about that movie and enough adventure that, and of course John Williams knocked it out of the park with the score. But Hasbro went to town and just decided to release a huge amount of toys, playsets, vehicles, all related to not just Crystal Skull, but all of the indie movies leading up to that point. So some of the packaging right here, here's the, you know, it says this is a Indiana Jones Kingdom of the Crystal Skull indie, right? And he's got his, it's kind of a deluxe figure. He's got his multiple hands and hat and his crystal skull in his hand. I just wanted to have one of these, you know what I mean? They also came out with a whole bunch of, they had Mutt, they had the Colonel Dilchenko, they had the Ugna Warrior, they had the Cemetery Warrior, the Russian Soldier, they had Arena Spalko. I have a couple of them. I didn't collect all of them. I just kind of pick and chose which ones I liked. Because in addition to these, they also had some deluxe playsets. Like, this is an actual younger indie from Raiders of the Lost Ark. So they released this around the time of Crystal Skull. But the great, you know, the temple with the idol, you know what I mean, and just like a booby trap. I mean, it's just a great little playset, you know, mini playset. So that was really cool. So they had a few of these. They had them on a horse. You can get a German soldier on a motorcycle. I mean, it was really, really cool. Here's some other ones that they released. Again, I collected a few of these. They had, of course, the River Phoenix's Young Indiana Jones, which he included a very large. I think these all included like pieces of like the staff. I guess the staff of Ra, even though that had nothing to do with River Phoenix's character. But you know, dressed as the Boy Scout, that's cool. We had Indy, I believe, yeah, Indy dressed in his kind of, you know, his desert outfit when he goes in for the Well of Souls, right? That's really cool. I had these nice little kind of containers to hold the figures. Another older Indy, but without the jacket. He's got the bazooka. I don't think he thinks that far in advance. That scene. And we have, of course, the infamous bad guy thug that was doing his big sword, samurai sword, not samurai, but you know, his big sword work, and that's the one Indy just kind of aimed and shot him to not do the fight. A little bit of trivia: there was going to be a staged fight, but Harrison Ford was really sick with malaria or something like that, food poisoning or something, and as a result, they just decided to shoot the scene like as they did, which was phenomenal. And one of my personal favorites, we have, you know, Henry Jones, Dr. Henry Jones, my only action figure form of Sean Connery that I own. Just fantastic. Pretty good likeness. This is still sculpting. This is they really weren't fully into the, you know, the face 3D scanning business at that point. I mean, they were getting into it, but not fully. So those were, you know, complete awesome things. Now, I don't think they were that successful in stores. Again, I think, you know, running into the same issue they've been running into, which is, you know, kids would rather be Indiana Jones and not play Indiana Jones. It's not as otherworldly as these other things were, you know. So having said that, though, I did want to get a few to add to the collection. I just love the work that Hasbro did on this and the effort that they put in, and I just thought it was great. So, but no, I didn't get them all, and I don't intend to get them all. But so that brings us to now, and we have a couple of things. There's been some kind of more play schooly type figures for Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny. Just some general, like, definitely geared towards younger audiences. Slightly bigger, a little more cartoony, almost caricature-like in nature. So that's really cool. But for those of us older fans that remember the days when, you know, trying to appeal, I think, you know, with this being Harrison Ford's last indie picture, and I think everyone's just trying to, you know, capitalize a little on nostalgia, which is totally fine. I get that. So they released more of these. Like I said, we already showed you these retro figures. Like, they released a bunch of them from the 80s that they originally released. So I thought those were great. There's a few more up there. I've got Tote, I've got Marion. I'm going to try to complete that whole collection. In addition, they have included some never before made, like newer figures, kind of like, what if they were to were to have continued the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom with short round. And then here's another Indy with, the torn shirt, right, at the end of Temple of Doom. These I've been able to find. There's the German mechanic. There is a bunch of other ones. This series is only these two. The original series, it's Marion, Belloc, we already have that, Tote, Indiana Jones, and the German mechanic. So I have that complete series. The one I can't get, and I've been trying, and I'm hoping that they re-release it, is Henry Jones in the retro form. If I can get a Henry Jones figure, if anybody knows one, if you find one, I mean, let me know where you found it. I might ask you to pick it up for me, and I'll Venmo you, whatever, because I really, really want to find this figure. Right now, I'm only seeing it on eBay at like skyrocket cost, so we'll see. Of course, Lego also got into the act back in the 2008 with a bunch of sets for relating to Crystal Skull, and I think they had a few others. I wasn't really collecting that much Lego at that point, so I didn't really pick those up. And so they're in a way, if you're an indie fan, collecting indie is a lot easier than collecting Star Wars. All right, if you're trying to be a completist, there isn't a ton of product out there. I mean, the real, like, I would say, in terms of quantity and quality, I mean, the stuff was very good, but the quantity and quality high point would have to have been Crystal Skull. That would have had to have been it, because they just released so many figures. I even think they had a second series that they released, but they ended up releasing it as of figures that they ended up releasing as a San Diego Comic-Con or one of the big Comic-Con exclusives, like a pack of them, of like 6 or 12 figures, and it's now like hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars to try to track that down. So, but beyond that, there's not much. So it's kind of cool that they had that. So that's my quick tour through the indie collecting. And as I said, I am very much excited about the movie. I go to these movies like one would go to see a Flash Gordon serial or a Tarzan serial from the 30s and 40s. I'm not going in expecting to have my mind blown or have my life changed forever. I just want to go and be entertained. And you give me a good John Williams score, some great action moments, doesn't even have to be all the way through, some character moving forward. I'm entertained. I'm the audience that this is for. So I'm very much looking forward to it. If you have a different opinion, fine, leave a comment, that's fine. I respectfully disagree. And I know I haven't even seen it yet. Now maybe I'll feel differently. When all's said and done, I might show up and be like, yeah, that wasn't really what I wanted in an indie film. But I have loved everything that's come out so far. So before I go, I do want to let people know that we will be having more episodes drop over the next month, but they will be shorter episodes because I am going to be traveling. There will be some amazing content coming up in August because of what I'm doing in July. Some things we have on the docket. Well, we're going to finally get on that Halcyon, and people have been sticking with the channel know that is something that we're supposed to do back in November. We got it rescheduled because of a hurricane, so now we're doing it in July. And hopefully no more hurricanes, because there aren't any times to reschedule it because they're closing the Halcyon. So, but not for a lack of a good experience. I've heard nothing but good things, and I'm very excited to be able to get on board and enjoy that experience, share a little bit of it out there with you guys. Of course, there's tons of information out there now about it, but I want to give you my take when we get to it. In addition, we have another previously canceled event, which now got rescheduled, and that is the Disney Wish cruise to the Caribbean, which does have a Star Wars component. It is not a Star Wars cruise by any means. It is simply a Star Wars component in that there is a hyperspace lounge on board that we're going to definitely want to get into and maybe film a little. And there's also all the kid spaces that I can at least film at the very beginning and kind of walk you through it. So we have that to look forward to. And then, of course, whenever I'm down in Florida, we have walkthroughs, Galaxy's Edge. I don't know, sometimes I like to do a live stream, sometimes I like to do a pre-recorded. We'll see what the weather and everything else brings. All right, so just keep your eye open, like, subscribe, hit that notification so you know when things are coming. So that's a heavy duty amount of July with stuff like that. In the meantime, we still have some unboxings to do that'll be a little shorter, but stuff we want to share. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, if adventure has a name, it must be Indiana Jones and Darth Tuba. May the Force and the toys be with you.